to start, we are going to measure all of the dry ingredients. What I'm showing you here is the easiest way to get a level measurement when it comes to dry ingredients. So you just need to scrape the excess off with like the back of a knife and make sure that it's level so that it's measured out properly. Then you can throw that baking powder in with the rest of the flour, and you can also do that with a full cup of flour, but because we're doing half, this is how I would level half of a cup. So next you're going to do the zest of the lemon. So you can see it's really fine and there's no white pith in there. There's none of that white part in there. That you don't want that in there. So that's what it looks like. I just used a cheese grater, but if you have a proper microplane to actually zest with, which is the proper tool for it, then it'll make it a lot easier. And then you can throw that zest in with the dry ingredients as you can see here. So this is everything. We have the eggs and the sugar together, the oil, the butter, and the almond milk. All of the dry ingredients are separate. And then the baking pan, which is really lightly greased. I had some olive oil spray that I just lightly sprayed in there. So you don't need a lot because the recipe already has olive oil and butter in it. So next, you need to whip the eggs and the sugar together. This took me probably a minute. I put it on, medium speed and then the highest speed, and it took me about a minute. It was really quick. So it needs to look like this. You're getting it airy and like frothy, kind of foamy. It looks kind of like a syrup. That is where you want this, so that we are incorporating some air into this cake. The next thing that you need to do is mix in all of the dry ingredients. Just mix them together lightly with a whisk before we go on to the next part. And then you're going to add in those wet ingredients to the dry ingredients. So all the fats, the oil and the butter and almond milk. And we're just using the whisk for just this part. You don't want to use the whisk for the next step of this. So make sure this is all nicely combined. Make sure all the clumps are out and there's no dry ingredients that are still floating around in there. So it should look like that, very well combined, and it's a wet, thick batter. Now you're going to add in that foamy egg and sugar mixture. So do about half of it and then fold it in. As you can see, I'm doing with the spatula. Don't do this with a whisk because it's going to take the air out of it that you just whipped into the eggs to lighten that cake. So once you do half of that and it's mixed in, do the other half. And this is what it should look like at the end. So it's a light, fluffy, airy looking batter. And then you can just, with that motion that I'm doing right there, that is how you want to fold it in while you're mixing that together so that you don't lose that airy fluffiness that you whipped into the eggs. Then pour it into your pan. Make sure you scrape all of that, all of it out with the spatula. And then this is the smallest baking pan I had. So mine's very thin, but it will double in size after it's done baking. But I personally like it thinner. So this is what it looks like when it's finished. This is very obvious. You can see the edges are browned and all those little holes are from the air pockets, bursting while it was in the oven. So this is signs that it is completely cooked. But if you're not positive, you can take a toothpick, and if it comes out dry, then that cake is definitely done. That is like the #1 way to test your baked goods. Honestly, this cake is it's so delicious just by itself, but you can add whipped cream, you can add berries to it, so get creative when it comes to how you want to serve it, or just eat it like it is.